lineup all leave the military. So it was quite sad. But anyway, for the first match, we're going to have stats coming out for KT. Apparently they're going to live until 2014. Alright, so they at least have another year. They at least have another year. Alright, that's good. And whoa, hello. Oh man, coming out for SKT is going to be Fantasy leading the charge. 7-3, nice record in Pro League, but more importantly, he very recently, spoiler alert, dominated Flash in the OSL semifinals. That's right, this man has slain God and has progressed to the finals to face Jangbi in the last ever Brood War OSL. So I'm sure his Brood War skills are pretty good, especially since Jangbi is also Protoss. So he's probably been playing a little bit of TVP. Or no, not sure. But I would wager a guess and say that he's been practicing his Brood War TVP. Anyway, come on, let's go into the game. Oh, thank you, Kat. I am indeed not listed on the event on Team Liquid. It's terrible. It's terrible. Kat, actually, I can hold on, because I can like make, yeah, I can make people like stream managers. Look, I have like this. Hold on, I'm gonna block the screen a little. Look, I have like this handy dandy stream manager page, so I can like give people rights on the stream. So I can just like give all my mobs rights on the stream. Like, yeah, I can make you a manager person, and you can just change it. Yeah, and you can. And I think I can also like let you change the screen description and stuff, so you can write funny things there, like Pisu is a cutie and whatnot. But surely you would do no such thing. Wow, that is an awesome picture. Oh my god, that is six skill. Anyway, Fantasy's purple Terran here at the bottom left. Stats will be the brown. Protoss at the bottom right. We are on Neo Sniper Ridge. If you guys would just give me a second to give Kit. Let's see. There's 3 permissions. I can give her basic, advanced, or full control. Full control sounds kind of kinky. Not gonna lie. Green tea is delicious. Alright, let's go that one. Let's go that one. Add user. Alright, I think that's it. Nice and easy. So, we have a barracks on the low ground. It's going to be a 1-ranked expand from Fantasy. And these positions, by the way, I do think are pretty good for Fantasy. The 6 o'clock base would be the 3rd base that the Protoss does want to take, but that would be expanding towards the Terran, which is never a good idea, so he might instead take the 3 o'clock base, which is a little bit further away, a little bit more vulnerable to Vulture Harass, which is exactly what Stas does not want against Fantasy, of course, because of how deadly Fantasy Vultures are. Interestingly, if you think about it also, if you took the 6 o'clock, the narrow, like there's 2 entrances to each of the side bases. The narrow ramp at the 6 o'clock would be facing towards his own natural, so he wouldn't have to worry about like walling it off or anything. But if he takes a 3 o'clock, he has to wall off both the ridge entrance and also the narrow ramp entrance, so you have to spend like an extra 3 pylons to wall it off. Which doesn't seem like a big deal, but it's like it just ties up a little bit more resources when you don't necessarily need them. And interestingly, a Zealot first here from Stats. I'm looking at the minimap. I don't actually know if he's even built a cybernetics core. Is he doing like a 1 Zealot expand? Is he doing like that Bisu craziness? Is that what's going on here? Uh-oh. Oh my goodness, that is what he's going on here. He did not build a 7x score. I think he got a gas though. Did he get a gas? I'm pretty sure he got a gas. Gateway, gas, then Nexus. You know, with some Zealot harass. That's very interesting. What's even more interesting to me is that Fantasy also got his gas and hasn't built a command center yet. I'm so confused by both these players. What? He's not making a command center. Is this like a fake? Look, he's mining gas. Has he made a factory? What the hell's going on here? What? Oh, okay, now he's making a command center. I was like, is he just gonna... For a second, I thought this was some kind of genius build from Fantasy where he like pretends to 1-Rax expand, you know, causes the Protoss to do a stupid build, and then just like kills him with a 2-factor or something. That would have been quite funny. And by stupid build, I don't actually mean stupid. It's actually a fine build. As I said before, Bisu actually used it to great success against none other than Flash, in fact. In Winners League Finals? I think so. Either way, you essentially, you know, if you scout 1-Rax expand that early, if you're just like normally the Protoss build is 1 gate expand, but you know, if you're only getting a few Junes off 1 gateway, it's not like you're gonna put that much pressure on the bunker anyway. So this kind of thing where you instead get the early Zealot to put on a bit of pressure, kind of, because it's much harder to micro Marines than it is to micro the Zealot in this early stage. I mean, yeah, I'm Protoss, but I'm not gonna lie, it is much easier to just be on the offensive with those Zealots. So you put on a lot of pressure with those Zealot instead of Dragoon. It comes much earlier, and they have to micro the Marines around to stop it. And then you just expand quite quickly. It's much faster than the 1-gate Expo, you know, with Dragoons first. Anyway, I thought I was doing some map analysis before this. Yeah, I talked about like how 6 o'clock is better than 3 o'clock, but he doesn't really want that base. One other thing to note is also, even if he doesn't take the 6 o'clock, his stats' natural expansion is still kind of facing Fantasy's main, so it's still a little bit annoying in terms of defending drops and whatnot. He has built a pylon though at that 6 o'clock location. Doesn't necessarily mean he wants to take that base, could just be a spotting pylon for any dropships going there. Or at least in that position it's almost certainly just a spotting pylon at the moment. He could still take the base. And look at this, he's sending another probe over to the top left of his base, possibly going to build another spotting pylon there. And yeah, I believe that's what he's just done. So nice moves by Stats, placing pylons where you know the most likely locations dropships would enter his base are going to be. And that's very smart against a player like Fantasy who loves his Vulture harass, whether it be running them into the main or dropping them in. But so far we don't see anything out of the ordinary from Fantasy, just adding on his 2 factories after getting that expansion. Getting those double machine shops, very, very standard stuff. 2 machine shop. After fast expand. And interestingly, we have an SCV heading to the top left main. Is that for a hidden expo, or is he checking for hidden expos? Looking at the money, he's actually going to build a hidden expansion here. That's very... Oh, wait, no, he's going back. He's got 500... Oh, no, he's got 400 minerals. Alright, no, he's not going to go. That's... Okay, no, he just built the 3rd command center at his natural. Okay, so Fantasy did just make a 3rd command center, but it wasn't a hidden expo like it looked like it might be. Instead, he's just being very, very careful to make sure there's no hidden expansions going up anywhere. That's very interesting. That's not something you often see from a Terran, but I think it is well worth the investment. I mean, you know, you lose 1 SCV at this point, but you're on 2 bases. You got a decent number of SCVs, and you know, just every now and then there'll be like 1 game in 50 games where the Protoss actually does take a hidden expo, and if you don't scout it, then you can just lose. And ooh, Vulture barely getting intercepted before it gets into the main. We notice that Stats is actually taking the 6 o'clock base, so that's going to be extremely vulnerable to drops, and also quite difficult to hold against a push. I mean, a quick push over there, Fantasy kind of just has to move out of his natural a little bit and then hop from the first ridge to the second, and then boom, he's got that base. Although on the other hand, I guess the interesting thing about this is you could also say that, well, even if Stats didn't take the 6 o'clock base, if Fantasy can push up to that middle ridge anyway, then Stats is probably not in a good position in the game. So it's just like, well, might as well just take the 6 o'clock anyway then. And Stats is in fact going for a Reaver to help defend that. can do some harassment and then also keep the Terran at bay, keep him in his base, keep him defensive. So this map, with the natural minerals, are actually pressed back against a cliff. So that makes it quite nice for Muta Harass in particular, but also for Reaper Harass, for Storm Drops or whatnot. Very easy to sneak back there without anything intercepting you. However, the main base is completely different. The main base, the minerals are pressed against like the bottom edge of the map. There's a huge wide open area in the main that basically means it's a little bit risky to just move in there with a shuttle. Now, Terrans very rarely have very much anti-air at this stage in the game, usually only a handful of Marines, almost never have any Goliaths. So you can still kind of run in there anyway with the shuttle, but he does have to be a little bit more careful. And of course, I say rarely, but you know, hopefully most people remember that crazy OSL finals between between Fantasy rather and Stork, where Fantasy came up with actually a fast Goliath build to deal with Stork's Reavers. Oh man, I remember casting that series live. It was just it's amazing, 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 amazing. Even though Stork lost, it was still amazing. Anyway, looks like ooh, speed is actually done for the shuttle. So Stats definitely committing some resources here to the Reaver Harass. That shuttle speed is actually quite expensive. Some people actually don't even realize like how much that can disrupt your build otherwise, because that's 200, right? That's like a ton of gas, and even the mineral cost is quite high at this stage in the game. It's a pretty significant investment if you don't do that much damage. And sneaky hidden turret there, and the shuttle kind of flew around in turret range right at the end there, so it took a little bit of extra damage. Dropped the Sayle first, so he doesn't take any damage from the Spider Mine on the Reaver, and he will take down that shuttle, or sorry, the turret. And flying here, Fantasy pulling a couple of units back, but actually doesn't seem to pull that many units back. But he's got shuttles in amazing positions here, and gonna lose a couple of SEVs. But the problem here, oh man, those depots are actually at risk here. If Fantasy targets, or sorry, if Stats targets, keep mixing up players. If Stats had actually targeted like the top left depot there, he could have splashed 3 depots and the armory. That would have been quite nice for him. That's why Terran players, sometimes you'll see, will space out their supply depots instead of building them all in a clump like that. Obviously, you know, supply depots are already very big, and if you space them out, you're going to be using up a lot of real estate in your main. But on the other hand, you know, if a Reaver drops in your main and you have 4 clump depots, if the Reaver shoots it so the Scarabs blow up in the middle, you can actually kill like 4 depots, just easy peasy. And it's gonna get one more shot. Not quite. So we got like, what was that, like 6 SEVs, 7 SEVs in the natural, and then like another 3 in the main. You know, 10 SEVs for a speed shuttle and Reaver. I'm not sure if that's entirely worth it. The important thing also is that the Reaver is not just for doing damage and killing SCVs, it's also kind of used as a threat, just to keep the Terran, you know, keep him honest, basically. Make sure he doesn't push out too quickly, and you know, plays a little bit more carefully. Basically buys the Protoss time to get his infrastructure going and get a big army up before the push comes. Anyway, it looks like Stats is going to go for it here. I don't see an observer anywhere, which is baffling to me, and he's just going to eat spider mines. Oh man, this is not going to go well. Alright, there's an observer. That's a little bit late. He has speed for it. I don't know where it was. Maybe it was there, I just didn't notice. It's a little bit hard to see the brown observer there on like the muddy background. But anyway, oh man, Fantasy going up to 8 factories here. I mean, his main push did like barely even lost units. I think Stats has lost the game already. His Reaver didn't do nearly enough. He got kind of caught taking a 4th base and going Arbiter Tech as well, so he didn't actually have that many ground units. So now the supplies are about even, but Protoss needs to be like 20 supply ahead at least at this point to deal with the push. So I think Stats is now going to lose at 6 o'clock. And this is kind of what I was talking about earlier. You see, Fantasy doesn't actually have to push that far. He can just kind of scoot from the ridge outside his natural that he'd be holding anyway to the ridge, like to the middle ridge. And now he can just kill the 6 o'clock, easy peasy. So I'm not really sure what Stats can do right now. And by not really sure, I mean there's nothing he can do. He's completely dead. So So Stat's going to be cute here and do this little trick with you can do with Arbiters, which is basically instead of like using a shuttle to bomb tanks, you just run a single cloaked zealot in under an Arbiter, or you can use two. And basically, the Terran doesn't have mobile detection, as you can see. So usually, unless they have like the insane reaction time, the Zealot will often connect with the tanks, and then they scan it, and then the splash from other tanks blows up a lot of tanks. So that's like a cute little way to Zealot bomb without actually having a shuttle. It's also a little bit safer, I guess, because Arbiters are pretty beefy. They're a lot beefier than shuttles are. Anyway, so Stat's trying to be super cost efficient here, pick off random tanks in the back, but I mean, you can just see the supply going further and further in Fantasy's favor. And now he's completely contained. He's got a small group of units outside that he's going to try and pick off reinforcements with, and that's the correct decision, but it doesn't really matter. Look at that 20 kill siege tank. So Fantasy just going to push into natural here. Stats, I mean, what are you going to do? This is the guy that 3-0'd Flash in the OSL semis and is now practicing TVP really hard for his OSL finals that are going to be coming up in a couple of weeks. I think it is 2 weeks now because it got pushed back. Just under 2 weeks. It's August 4th, I believe, if anyone is wondering the exact date of the OSL finals. So, yeah, make sure to mark it in your calendar. Oh, that could have been a big mine. I don't know what happened to it, though. Where did that mine go? Anyway, Stats is actually just going to drag this game out. I'm not really sure what the deal is here. It's only game 1. It's not like this is an ace match or something. Oh well. That's what pro gamers do. Oh, he gets his stasis off! And then he's going to lose his expansion. The cannon's just going to die to vultures. That's the saddest thing to see, actually, when cannons die to vultures. Because just by damage types, vultures should not be very good against cannons. But when you get to late game, because cannons don't get upgrades, and vultures do, obviously, like the vultures scale, and the cannons don't, so in the late game you get like a bunch of vultures running around killing cannons and stuff. It's really weird to look at as a Protoss. Anyway, it looks like Stats is going to kind of break through this high ground position here. Fantasy's actually sent a bunch of SCVs. I don't know what that's for. Are these like Manor SCVs? Did he build a command center there? Is there a command center? I think there's actually a command center there. Fantasy wanted to take the 6 o'clock expansion. Oh man. By the way, that's actually not a BM move. That's actually something that Terrans just do. It's because, the safest, basically the principle of Terran is, in TVP, or even in TVT I guess, is you want to expand along your push path, because the Terran army is not very mobile. The mech army is not very mobile, but it's insanely strong. So you just, whichever direction you're pushing, you just expand. You take all the expansions along the push path, and that's like the safest thing to do. So since he's pushing towards Stats' natural and has now like secured the 6 o'clock base, he's just gonna expand there. That's all good. Anyway, GG from Stats and Fantasy takes game number 1. Or sorry, yeah, SKT, not KT. SKT gets a 1-0 lead. Whoops. 결승전을 이제 프로토스와의 결승전을 앞두고 나서 프로토스전에 대한 자신감을 계속해서 쌓아나가고 있는 정명훈 선수이기 때문에 이 대결보다도 스타리그 결승전에서 허영무 선수와 보여줄 정명훈 선수의 대결이 더 기대가 되는 거는 뭐 저뿐만이 아닐 것 같습니다.
그럼요, 당연하죠. 자, 정명훈 선수 진짜 최근에 2연승 중이라고 말씀을 드렸는데 오늘 승리까지 더불어서 지금 10연승입니다.
Isn't it so funny? Like, people are saying, in the chat, like, ah, Terran, Siege Tanks, Imba. But just imagine, like, Brood War, I never played Command & Conquer. But, you hear people talk all the time about how, it was just, like, mass tank wars, right? So, is it not ironic that, in Brood War tanks were amazing, and then Dustin Browder comes along from CNC, takes over StarCraft 2, and then, like, neuters tanks completely? You'd think he'd make them even stronger.